So I had a timed 6-minute presentation that I've been told I don't have to bother with that, so I'm going to wing it here. A few of you have actually been in this room hearing me speak about the trolley history. There is so much that usually I have to rein myself in, so I'm going to keep it brief. It was only 129 years ago, and only about 1,000 feet from where we're gathered, that the first passengers were dropped off at the top of Braddock Mountain on an August day after enjoying the first public trolley ride up the mountain. They were the first of what would be millions of passengers that would ride on a railway connecting 24 communities in 2 counties and crossing 2 mountain ranges. The Frederick and Middletown Railway was founded because the national road had fallen into disrepair. There were railroads that had taken the freight service that once took caravans of wagons, horse-drawn wagons, over this mountain. And the tolls had dried up, and the road had become rutty and almost impassable some days. So the farmers and the people of the Middletown Valley, who relied on the ability to get their farm goods out of their valley to the rest of the world, saw railroads in so many other communities and wanted one for themselves. And after several rumors of rails that never came to be, they took matters into their own hands and in 1893 started a company of their own. It took 3 years of fundraising, but by 1896, trolleys were crossing the mountain. From the trolleys, not only did they get freight service, but also passenger service, which, as much as it seemed to surpass the freight, within a year they were already buying more freight cars because they were exceeding the amount of goods that they had planned to transport just within 1 year. Here at the top of the mountain, the company president at the time, George William Smith, a local farmer from the bottom of the mountain near Frederick, had long before wanted to turn the top of this mountain into some sort of a resort. He wanted people to recognize the beauty of the views from this mountain, the beauty of the mountain itself, the way he did. And the railway gave him that opportunity. Gathering together some of the other officers of the railway and some local businessmen in Frederick and Middletown, they formed the Braddock Heights Improvement Company, bought the top of the mountain from the farmers who were growing wheat here, and parceled it out and began building homes. These were not just homes, though. They were homes meant to have rooms to let. Houses that were similar to those you'd find along the boardwalk along the Atlantic coast. To attract more people to the top of this mountain, they also started an amusement park just up the hill from where we're at. This amusement park not only attracted people from outside of the region as tourists, but it became a staple of the regional economy. Hood College held their annual picnics there. Various companies held their picnics. People would have a weekend getaway to come to the top of the mountain and enjoy the rides, the dancing, the music, and just the experience of being at Braddock Heights. Beyond this mountain, the railway continued to expand. The Frederick and Middletown Railway eventually took control of a steam railroad between Frederick and Thurmont and took the name Frederick Railroad. There were other names thrown in here and there. The Frederick Interurban Railway is seen in photos here at Braddock, in Thurmont, and Frederick. In 1904, they connected with the Hagerstown Railway, another trolley company that had formed as a commuter route in Washington County. This connection made possible by the route continuing through Middletown to Myersville, and the Hagerstown Railway connecting to their route partway to Boonesboro from Hagerstown. In 1904, the first through trolley left Hagerstown for Frederick on a round trip. That trip took about 2 hours. With a horse-drawn wagon on the national road and its state, that trip could take days depending on what you were transporting. The ability to travel within 1 day and get home in the same day was something that was profoundly new to a lot of people. On top of that, riding aboard a trolley car may have been the first time most residents ever saw an electric light bulb. Frederick had a power company, but within 1 mile radius of that, beyond 1 mile radius of that, you wouldn't see electricity. The trolley company took that and extended it. They began connecting homes along their route. They built their own power plant near Middletown, just on the other side of the mountain from Frederick. And they realized that that was a service that people needed. So they began to expand that business as well. As the company grew, as the company took and built new branch lines to Jefferson, to Shady Grove in Pennsylvania, the Hagerstown line extended. As they bought other companies, they grew a power grid that by the 1920s traveled from Front Royal, Virginia up to Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, and from Frostburg all the way to Mount Airy. It was an extensive electric system that brought power in a uniform way to so many communities that otherwise would not have had power. The railway continued to provide freight service, and it continued to provide passenger service. It provided transportation for students to get to school and to go visit friends' houses. It provided a way for businesses like a creamery in Middletown that leased a rail car to send a load of butter to Baltimore once a week. Whole train car. It helped grow the businesses in so many communities. The line allowed students to ride trains into Frederick and then take the trolley directly to Hood College, where the track passed through the campus. But over the years, the railway started declining. The power company aspect had taken control, and the company decided to change its name to reflect that, becoming Potomac Edison. As Potomac Edison, they continued to operate trolleys for 30 more years. But the trolleys were no longer the focus and became a time capsule. They didn't upgrade like the big cities did. You didn't see streamlined high-speed streetcars on this line. They kept the same wooden trolleys they were operating in the 19-teens and the 1920s. And because of that, it became a national attraction. Railroad enthusiast clubs would come from around the region just to ride and photograph these trolleys, which is how we have so many excellent photos of the trolley service in operation, despite being a small line with only 100-some trolleys at its peak. Freight continued until the end. In fact, the last passenger trolley over the mountain here in 1947 was not the last passenger trolley. Passenger service continued to Thurmont until 1954. Electric freight service ended to Thurmont in 55, replaced by diesel, and that line was removed in 58. By that time, the company had also taken on other businesses. They had opened retail stores offering appliances. They had delivered mail with the trolleys and parcel services in partnership with the Railway Express Agency. You didn't get your package delivered by UPS, you got it delivered by the trolley. They were the ones that wired up houses that didn't have electricity installed when the house was built. And for a time, they operated not only the local buses, but they started a regional bus company that formed the Mid-Atlantic framework for Greyhound. The company eventually did away with the trolleys, but the impact of the trolleys and the landmarks that we see today left over from the trolley line, the grades, the pole lines, the buildings that still stand, and 4 surviving trolleys, are a legacy of community impact, of growth, of development that all started with the founding of the Frederick and Middletown Railway. I thank you all for coming out here. There's obviously a lot more about this railway history-wise. I could go on for hours if you let me. But if you have any questions about the railway, I'm going to hang around. We've got some history displays if you haven't already looked at them. And I am more than happy to answer questions. So thank you everyone for coming out today.